Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Amity University. We are a research and innovation-driven university committed to the cause of our founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, sir, who believes that every Amitian is an asset to the society and the nation and the globe as well. Welcome to the fourth webinar in the series of webinars on Transgender Persons Act 2019 and the Rules 2020. The fourth webinar will be on the title, which is Inclusive Education within the Transgender Persons Act 2019 and Rules 2020. With me, please meet the co-moderator, Dr. Khushbu Malik. And up the panel today, we have with us our eminent speakers for the day. Dr. Hema Gandotra ma'am is from the Department of Sociology, University of Jammu. We have with us Dr. Vijeta Verma ma'am, who's at the Christ University. We have with us Dr. Naresh Mahipal sir, who's from the Faculty of Law at the University of Jammu. Joining us also is our very dear colleague, Ms. Kartika Bakshi, who's Assistant Professor at Amity Law School, Noida. So without any further ado, let's begin this fourth webinar by invoking the goddess of learning. So I'll request Vijay to play the Saraswati Vandana video. Over to you, Vijay.
ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। हे शारदे मां अज्ञानतासे हमें तार दे मां। हे शारदे मां अज्ञानतासे हमें तार दे मां। तो श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे, हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे। तो श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे, हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे। मन से हमारे मिटा दे अंधेरे, हमको उजालों का संसार दे मां। हे शारदे मां अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां। अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां। अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां।
That's beautiful. And as we get blessed by the goddess of learning, it becomes very imperative for me to tell you that Amity Law School, Noida is the largest law school in the Asia Pacific region. And Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee is working in tandem with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, wherein we are going to organize 10 webinars on Transgender Persons Act 2019 and the accompanying rules 2020. To disseminate and to spread more awareness about the Transgenders Act of 2019, now we have a dedicated cell at Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, which is called as the Transgender Rights and Disability Rights Cell. And we also have our satellite office at gate number 2A of the university premises. So if you have anything to talk about the transgenders, or if you find anyone having any problem related with that, you can dial our number 0120-439-2807. I'll repeat the number many times during the webinar. So without any further ado, I will now request the person who is the source of inspiration behind Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, none other than our very respected and honorable Joint HOI and Additional Director, Professor Dr. Aditya Tovar sir. I will now request Aditya sir to present the introductory remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Sumitra. So, on the inauguration of webinar, just to protect the rights of disabled and the transgender, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome all the esteemed guests, Vijeta Verma ji, Vinay Agrawal sahab, Hema Gandotra ma'am, all the esteemed panelists. The student will be enriching by your valuable thoughts. Just because of you spare your valuable time to address the student and just to clarify the rights and duties of the society person journal, that whether we are talking about the disabled person or we are talking about the transgender person, if we are talking about the social justice, social equilibrium in the society, these are the sections of the society to take care most importantly. So with these words, without making further ado, I request Dr. Sumitra Singh to proceed further. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aditya sir. You always inspire us. And the fact is that Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee is continuously being nurtured by you. And for that, we also are very proud of you. So, well, everybody, moving ahead, let's talk a little bit about the transgender persons. That the Constitution of India gives equal rights to all of us. So, even they have the same rights as us ordinary citizens of the country. What matters now is the respect for each other's rights, and that the respect of the rights is considered to be the supreme form of humanity. So, having said so, I will now hand over the dais to co-moderator Dr. Khushbu Malik.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a very welcome to all the guests who have spared their valuable time to discuss this topic today. Now, I invite Mr. Nitan Sharma, sir, to welcome all the guests. Over to you, Nitan, sir.
Our human rights activists. So most importantly, we are going to deal with each and every aspect of the issues facing by the transgender community in India and even across the world. So in this series, on behalf of the Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, so that they share their valuable vision with us, and by that way only our students are going to be enlightened, and the concerned message which the concerned Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment intended to deliver to the common masses to change the perception of the people toward the concept of gender, sexual orientation, and even the transphobia. So that these things can be mitigated and we will be able to see a peaceful and inclusive society. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, there is some technical problem today, but I'm sure I'm audible. Khushbu ma'am, I'm audible. Yeah. So this is the fourth webinar in the series of the webinars that we have conducted, and we have taken up issues which are surrounding the transgender persons, because they are the people, as Aditya sir also said in his introductory remarks, that what they feel is that they feel discrimination, they feel discriminated. So how can we make them more inclusive? Today's webinar will focus more on that. Having said so, I remember the very famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi, who said that I'm not going to submit to injustice in any way, and I shall conquer the untruth by truth. So with the words of Mahatma, let's now begin today's webinar. Today we have with us Dr. Naresh Mahipal sir from the Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. Dr. Naresh Mahipal sir has been contributing towards the society and the nation through his scholastic writings, and sir is in the committees, in various subcommittees of University of Delhi, and sir has presented papers and written so many books. A thorough academician, Dr. Naresh Mahipal sir, we would like to know from you how inclusive education can be more paramount when we talk about Transgender Persons Act of 2019 and the rules 2020. Over to you, Dr. Naresh Mahipal.
Thank you, ma'am, for providing me opportunity. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir, audible.
Thank you, sir. So I would thank all of you the members of Amity University, especially Aditya sir, you ma'am, Nitin sir, and all other legal aid team organizers, committee members, my dear panelists, which this program is organized. Obviously, those who have keenly joined to know about the transgender issues and all other things. I'm thank you for providing me. This is like the third opportunity that has been provided to me by Amity Law School, especially the Legal Aid Committee. And here we are gathered, been invited to talk about the transgender. So it is not a new concept. Maybe the law is, it is a centuries old campaign that forced the state to acknowledge and protect the gender identity. Those with biological makeup are considered transgender. Since the beginning of life has been documented and studied, they have been present in our class, race, and religion. And this acts as a tribute of a century-old campaign that forced states to acknowledge and protect the gender identity of group. So basic purpose of social welfare law, where they maybe the third with inclusive education only. So I will focus more on the schools and education. Wherever they go, maybe your theaters, your schools, your shopping mall, or the members of the transgender communities are routinely mocked. This is a basic core issue which we have to address. No law have to focus on us own. We understand transgender population is an integral part of our culture. However, some people in our community are able to understand this, that the transgender population is a part of our culture. And alternative gender identities manifestations, no matter how rejected, they are a part. They share a opinion. So as we have our fundamental, they too are guaranteed of it. And very judgment, you all of you know, first Union of India, the apex court recognized time that people of third orientation eligible for fundamental rights under Constitution and under international law. Eventually, after the passage of judgment, eventually the Transgender Act was passed. Prohibits transgender people from receiving unfair treatment in connection with their schooling, employment, or access to medical care, among other things, and education. The transgender is a sign that India is towards a more open and progressive society where people would not have possibilities restricted in their gender. On the when we analyze the act, you can say on the surface, the act appears to aspire to treat equally on par with other member of the society, but it fails to do so. Let us give the opportunity whether try to examine act upholds the notion of equity. Does it promise the advantage of Article 21, which are also referred as the golden triangle, whether it promises these golden triangle in spirit and to the organized group, you can say. So let us consider the Still, this provision of Article 14, 19, and 21 is extended to the trans, even after the passage of the Act and the of the Rules 2020. First of all, if we go through this article Constitution, what is to Article 14 of the Constitution, no person should denied equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws with Indian territory. However, the situation is different transgender community. The IPC penalties for sexual offences is one that can potentially include life imprisonment also. This only provides for the only 6 months to 2 years case of physical or sexual abuse to treat binary, and discrimination is prohibited under Article 15 also. Yet transgender people may be refused what is considered evidence. For example, they are allowed into stores, schools, hospitals, etc. Or people tend to avoid sitting, standing close to them. They, including we never allow them to in our neighbor. We don't prefer to sit with them. We avoid their company. This discrimination even after the passage of the time. According to Article 16, all citizens shall have the equal access to employment opportunities and employment positions held by the state. But again, this right has yet to see the transgender population. What is typical for others is not the case. They are denied rights like the right to employment or opportunities at par with the other citizens. Right? The preservation of these rights, including speech, Article 19, of 19, examine our own behavior, our own practice, own reluctance to give them the opportunity to do so responsibly at such a platform. Sadly, even today, no one of them is present to share their opinions, their complaints, expectations, talk about them here only. This depends you because we are talking and we are not much aware about them. We have never been to their community, ever been to their colonies, we've never been with company about them without understanding them. So I will urge not only to MIT University but every institute, including my institute, that wherever there is such program, we should invite these people also. Just what is the biology they want, how they convert to that, what is the difference between the transgender and the people, difference between them, right? So, although talking about the act of inclusive education, although the act granted this group the everyone else, this is how the thing, although it is listed in that, it is not strictly enforced in the public, and the transgender population to endure discrimination and fundamental human rights. The act ignores some crucial issues, such as whether transgender people can advance, what about the marriage, or what about what happens to their succession rights, what about succession policy. Act may say that educational institutions must offer transgender students an inclusive education as well as opportunities for the sports, recreation, and discrimination. Although it cites an inclusive education system, it remains silent at all about trans students in educational. Provisions are silent. It only there should not be any discrimination related to sports, recreation, and their activities. How did these again silent that rules does not Act does not provide any provision for psychological or mental health. In addition, insurance coverage to them. Again, it is social security insurance is not mentioned to that. And if you will go forth, titled as the welfare mayor, it only mentions that the government should initiate welfare mainstream, but that no mention should be taken of the areas where welfare activity should be carried out. Right. So no doubt this is a beneficial act. At least there is a start. It is just a step. But I will not say that it is even in the year 2020, the Ministry of Social and Empowered notified persons protection of rights 2020. Furthermore, the group initiative, something more has explained, and one initiative by the ministry is that the ministry launched an umbrella scheme. Sorry, it is a smile. Smile means support marginal individuals for livelihood and enterprise. It was on February 22, 22. So this umbrella would cover several measures, including welfare measures, transgender community, with a extensively rehabilitation, provision, medical facilities, counseling. So the scheme includes various welfare efforts for transgender people, such as financial assistance in the form of scholarship students who are studying in class 9th. There is a provision of scholarship to them. So some steps showing seriousness on the part of government is that the ministry has allocated rupees for the scheme from 2020, 2025 to 26, 2021 to 22, and thereafter. It is a sign that it is moving towards a more open and progressive, where would not have a denied based on gender, right? These problems can be solved by legislation on what I'm talking. Yes, that this has been done and this new and we have over that. But all of these problems solved by the legislature at the passage of time, you can say. But in the we compare a range of human realities, those continue to treat them with have their mindset changed. NGOs and educational institutions must run a radical LGBT program to assist the trans and the non-binary people in overcoming the suffering brought on by decades of institutionalization. And according to the dictionary, if we see, I'm talking about the discrimination, especially and about the inclusive education. Inclusive means, if dictionary, inclusive means simply leaving no one, no part or no group behind. In other words, if something not exclude a person or a group, it is inclusive. Assessing, addressing student variety and differences, which might include academic, social issues, is the key to success inclusive education. We not only provide them education, but we have to understand physical personalities, their social activities and emotional issues, then we are providing an education to them. We have to understand their basic issues and develop. We have to develop the infrastructure as per their need as well. We want them to use the washrooms, whatever their genders belongs. It should not be like the male, female, and after a transgender washroom you can, right? So we must understand, must accept them a part of society. Address the problems. Population only believe and urge that stigmatization. I firmly believe and urge that more and more public awareness campaigns are. This is the one initiative university for taking the initiative, but I think you should stop here. You should make it a campaign. You should make it a should be run. I think a year long. At least the general public, the students coming across India and abroad to the university, a very reputed university. So at least every person should get a plate or some banner like that. We must understand what transgender law and what are the rules, why they should be included to our. I firmly believe, and I put that public awareness campaign and trans topics must be in the curriculum for primary school. We should teach our that part of our education fosters respect and dignity. It is socially justified and effectively challenge discriminated attitudes and provide quality education ingrained in primary school. Not only the students, but from primary school to the universities and to the college, they have responsibility to serve transgender pupils, all culture, inclusive classroom in order to foster their true and valued involvement. Also, it is crucial to educate students and faculty members because see, we all transgender community, non-binary people, so-called, right? So they should, and the students should be exercised to a variety of workshops or the nukkad natak that could be played various places, pamphlets or the leaflets. Many more things can be done on the part of the with inclusive education are the lack of professional and training opportunities for mainstream teachers at all levels. We do not think for that. When it comes to our that what you can do for transgender community, we all are all you can say. We are not sensitized, we are not to help them. We have that thorough knowledge about their socio-cultural systems, right? So it is very neat to provide the to provide at the mainstream at all the levels. And we may use already existing news, putting much fun words. We can use the existing or the colleges or the various that is constituted, and on the government level, study centers, right? By observing a week-long term, a year at level, not for 1 or 2 hours, you can say. We should conduct a week-hour-long program here, fix the day, like from 3 to 10. This week will be observed, and various persons can call, students can be sensitized for that. You can also utilize the services of the volunteers of the education institution. We can take the health stations, sensitize village we can involve them in providing information to the parents of the gender, youth, and public. Since important that since district magistrates are the main focus of education made under Rule 2020, pending or sensitive made available to them. Go through the rules. All applications are to the district magistrate by this or that, but they are not aware about this act. Even the passage of this act is about the rules, so they should be sensitized, trained about these things. Time of the because I listen to them reviews, so I can that they are wrong. They have a heart, that they have feelings, that they are non-living entity, but rather the transgenders are people just like us. Or learn to celebrate the differences that have been education equity. I say about the educational equity. Educational equity means fairness and inclusion. We should be fair to them and take them into the inclusive education system. When then we can say that our fundamental equality. Let us all pave the accommodation environment for the to ensure it truly meaningful and education system in India. Thank you all for inviting me once again. Thank you, ma'am, and my all other panelists. Thank you, Aditya sir, and all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Naresh Mahipal, and we will be having some questions also for you towards the end of the webinar. However, the establishment of the National Council for the Transgender Persons is a very welcome step by the government, and the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment and Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee is committed to bring to fore all the problems faced by the transgender persons, and also in our satellite efforts. In case any of the people who are attending this webinar, if you find any kind of a problem related with transgender persons, please do connect with us. My number is, the number of the office is 0120-439-2807. I repeat, the number of Legal Aid and Literacy Committee at Amity Law School, Noida is 0120-439-2807. And also, we have our very special show, which is called as Samvidhan. So there also we are promoting Transgender Persons Act 2019 and the rules 2020. Our aim is that every person in the country should know about their constitutional rights. And the main person behind this vision is our founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, who believes that all of us, all the Amitians, are an asset to the society and the nation. So moving ahead, it is very important that the negative attitudes faced by the transgender persons be rectified, and also that Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee becomes a torch bearer in this field, so that we can promote the awareness among the transgender persons, and that there be light in the society. Khushbu ma'am?
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Today there is some problem in the internet. Yes, you're audible. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views. As we understand that we are progressing as a society, and this progress is meaningless if one group is left behind. So in the NALSA judgment, it was held that transgender people have the right to self-identity and they have right to education as well. Therefore, in the Transgender Persons Act 2019, it is the duty of the education institutions to provide inclusive education to transgender persons and provide adequate facilities. As discussed by sir, inclusive education means where no group is left behind, where every class of students are given education in one classroom, irrespective of their gender. Accordingly, the rules, they also direct the government to facilitate the accommodation and schooling of transgender without any non-discrimination with them. Further, going with this, the Madras High Court laid down directions to be followed by educational institutions that they should ensure the availability of gender neutral restrooms, providing the change and name on records easily, including transgender as a gender on their forms, and appointing counselors for them so that their grievances can be taken care of in the schools itself, in the educational institutions itself. Going with this principle, the UGC also stated that every university will take affirmative action to ensure the acclimatization of transgender students and create specific action for transgender persons, so that they don't feel discomfortable while going to the schools, colleges, or universities. Now I invite Dr. Hema Gandotra, who is serving in Sociology Department of University of Jammu, to share her views on this topic. Over to you, Hema ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Just give me a second. I need to log out from the another device because I was facing certain internet issues.
Ma'am, if you have a PPT to share.
Yes, I have a PPT to share.
Yeah. Arvind sir, can you please give sharing rights to Hema ma'am?
Ma'am, she have.
Okay, okay.
Okay. At the outset, let me thank the organizers. I'm very thankful to Mr. Aditya Tomar for initiating the webinars on such a vibrant topic. I'm also thankful to Mr. Nitin Sharma and Ms. Kartika Bakshi, our own students, our own very vibrant social activists from the University of Jammu. And I welcome my co-speakers, Dr. Naresh from Delhi University. I could hear just a little part of your presentation. A lot of technical glitches were there, but somehow I could get what you were actually speaking about, the inclusive education of these transgender people, and the society actually needs to be aware of these people. Now, this area of transgender is very close to my heart. I started exploring on this issue somewhere in 2010. My scholar was interested in doing research on these people. And this was the time, 2010, when we had this All India Khusra Biradari Sammelan happening in Jammu. So that was the time where we actually wanted to know that what is the difference between these third gender and the transgender. See, now also when I speak to my students, I'm very surprised to see that many of them do not actually know the difference between the third gender and the transgender. And when I myself started researching on them, even I was not clear about these two terms. I'm still doing a work on them. I'm now looking up for the case studies on these transgender people. But over these years, over this period of 10 years, we have been able to do a little bit. We have been able to peep into the life of these third gender people living in the UT of Jammu and Kashmir. We have interacted with the people of these community in Jammu, and plus we were lucky enough to even have an interaction with these. I'm specifically talking about the third gender people in the UT, in the Kashmir also. So what we could see from here is, because my presentation is going to talk about first the basic element that we actually need to first know the difference between the transgender and the third gender. Because we cannot see them as a homogeneous group. They are a heterogeneous one. We cannot see transgender vis-a-vis third gender people. When we started looking at these people, I'll start sharing the screen first. I hope the screen is visible. Just
no, ma'am.
1 second.
Yes, ma'am. Something is seen. Yeah.
I'm just opening the, because it's there in my.
Yes, ma'am.
But I can see not many. I don't know why my voice, there's a lot of echo. Is this visible?
Yes, ma'am. We can see the screen. Yes, ma'am. We can see the PPT.
But my voice, there's a lot of echo.
Ma'am,
Anyways,
you are
yes.
on 2 devices?
No, not 2 devices.
Okay, ma'am. Now your voice is fine, ma'am. We can hear you.
But there is a lot of echo. I don't know.
Ma'am, you have joined from 2 devices. I think your phone is also open.
One second. Let me see. No, Nitin, it's no.
I can see here, ma'am, you joined from 2 devices.
So you can remove me from one.
Yeah, I'm just.
Is it? Let me see. Let me see. Hello?
I removed you, ma'am.
Yes. Now it's okay. Okay. Coming on to this, why I've kept deliberately my topic for my presentation is the life of the third gender and insight. So I wanted to know the present generation about the life of the third gender people. Not many of my students have also logged in. Recently, we also had a kind of a one-day workshop on these third gender people, the representation and reality, which was organized by the Department of Journalism and Media Studies. And there also the students were lucky enough to have a live interaction with the transgender people. So in our day, whenever we talk about gender, we generally talk about sex, gender roles, the social construction of gender, the gender identity, the terms like masculinity, femininity, first gender, and of course, second gender. Though I don't prefer using this term second gender also, but in order to understand this third gender, we sometimes do refer to terms like second gender. Now, third sex or third gender, it is basically a concept wherein the individuals are categorized, either they are categorized by themselves or by society as neither man nor woman. So now it is a social category in society that recognizes 3 or more genders. And then we have the another term, which is transgender, which is the people whose gender identity is different from the gender they are thought to be at birth. So now transgender is when a person thinks that he's not fit for the body or the gender or the sex he's born with. So a male at any stage of life might feel that he wants to lead a life that of a female, and vice versa, and similar to the females also. Now, sometimes people confuse transgender and being intersex. So intersex people have reproductive anatomy or genes that don't fit typical dimensions of being male or female. But for the transgender, they are born as male and female, but they think that they are being trapped in a wrong body. So when this thought process begins, and this thought process is not at some specific stage of life, this thought process is at any stage of life. So then when we started, so the first question which came to our mind was, who exactly are these third gender people? I hope I'm audible, because I can't see you. I can just see my PPT only.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Yes. The first question which came to our mind also was, who are these third gender people? Or sometimes we also know them by the term hijras. Now, the through review of literature and through interaction with the people, the conclusion we came was, these are a group of closely shaven persons in female attire who sing and dance, crack sexually charged jokes at men, and make loud clapping sounds with their hands. They shave, smoke, and talk like men, but dress and behave in a more feminine way. And then one question which immediately strike relates to, who are these people, male or female? And if they are neither males or females, then what? So in Indian society, these people are popularly referred to as hijras, kusras, neutrals. But then we came to a conclusion that for many years, we have actually looked at these people, but we have never tried to to see them and to understand them. So this was the time beginning from 2010 when we actually started looking at their lives, and we wanted to actually understand them, that what is all that goes within their mind, within their heart, and what kind of things they have. The Hijras, as one knows, they are what? They are men who desire to be feminine. They might be hermaphrodite by birth, or men who choose to castrate themselves, or those who merely wear feminine attire. Now, these are the things we could actually summarize on the basis of the different studies, the different books we have gone through. The very one of the very famous, which was actually a Bible for us, is the book by Serena Nanda, Neither Man Nor Woman. So now, if we talk about Jammu, so in Jammu, these people, they prefer to be called as Manglamukhis. When we started interacting with them, they were very reluctant that please don't call us Hijras, don't call us Skinners, neither Khusras, but please call us Manglamukhis. Why? Because we pray for the Mangal of the community, because they are into this Badhai occupation in Jammu. In Jammu, they outrightly reject that they are neither into begging nor into prostitution, but they are just into Badhai making ceremony. So one gets to see them during Badhai functions only. And I have used here one term, which is launch. Launch actually means, it is a term which is being used by the third gender people of Kashmir. So launch is a Kashmiri term, and its translation in English is the middleman. So we will actually see a lot of a difference between the third gender people of Jammu and the third gender people of Kashmir. The Kashmir third gender people, they entirely have their different socio-culture setup, and these people living in Jammu, they are more closer to the transgender, to the third gender people of the northern areas, the Punjab, the Himachal, and other states. Now, in 2011, from the census, we could see that there are nearly 4,000 third gender people living in the UT of Jammu and Kashmir, but the census does not have their addresses. In the 2001 census, they were kept under the female category, but now in 2011 census, one sees the others category also. So this I've already spoken, that what they think Manglamukhis and why, because they were into Badai collection. And very important is, they claim to be, they claim that they have moved here after partition and were provided shelter by Maharaja Hari Singh. Now, when one actually looks at the family of these third gender people, so when we started interacting with them, these third gender people, they generally hide the information regarding their biological families. Why? Because so we have tried to look at them sociologically also, because there is whole notion of stigma attached with them till date also. I know few of the cases, I'll share few of the cases of the transgender people, not the third gender, but the transgender people, where this whole lot of stigma, how stigma still exists. Now, they are afraid of the problems for their family members, because they say that if they will disclose the information of their biological families, their family members are going to have problem with them. And maximum of them, they actually did not have the information regarding their biological families. Why? Because the third gender people we interacted with were not the ones who are born and brought up in Jammu only. So they have migrated from the nearby areas. And why migration takes place, I have discussed in my upcoming slides. Now, talking about the education, which my another co-panelist was also talking about, that yes, they grow up without education. They are refused admissions in education institutions. And we have case studies from Jammu also. And even the respondents we interacted with, none of them was with the higher education. And the ones who got this opportunity, they had they could get the education only while living with their parents. Whatever the level of education they had before leaving their house, they could maintain that only, and they were not allowed to maybe go to the institutions and everything after once they join the Hijra Dera. Now, what is this Dera? The Dera is a kind of household for them, because यहाँ पे local terminology में इनको डेरा, इनके घरों को डेरास बोलते हैं, and within the डेरास they have the bond of guru chela relationship. So there is one guru, and under one guru there are 9 to 10 chelas, and the chelas work for their gurus, and the And why they do not prefer the chelas going to the education institutions? Because they say that after they are being recruited in the deras, now they are being educated on the lines of that how to go for badai things, that how they have to participate in the badai making ceremonies, and the practice of dancing and everything starts then after onwards. Now, talking about their identity, as I told you, feminine identity, dress up and behave like females. Even the names of the respondents also sound like that of females. For example, Saima, Poli, Sonia, Geeta, Asha, Bebe, and Jita. But one thing I want to bring out here is, while we were doing the field surveys in Kashmir, there was a very interesting case study from Kashmir. There was one, this third gender person who had dual identity. Dual identity in the sense that in the morning he was earning the livelihood with the masculine identity. He was working as a salesman in one of the automobile showrooms, and at night he was into dancing. So in the morning he was maybe I'm changing the names, Mr. Raju as a sales executive or as a salesman in one of the automobile companies, and in the evening the same Raju would turn up to be the Billo Rani. So because in Kashmir these people dance in the marriage parties, birthday parties accordingly. So we could see morning Mr. Raju and in the evening the Billo Rani. And because they say that it is again in order to earn the livelihood, and they have no other source of livelihood. You see the cases, one can see the cases around oneself also. In Jammu, we could see that none of them were like into employment. None of them were into employment in the sense neither working in shops, nor as domestic helpers, but they were only into this badai collections only. And similarly, when we did the study in Kashmir, we could see that they were also, we had 2 case studies from Kashmir there where they were employed as domestic helpers. So in Jammu, we could only see them into badai collection, no begging, no prostitution, not even as domestic helpers. So their ceremonies are also very important to look into. They have their very famous ceremony, which is known as recruitment ceremony. So recruitment, it is only in this recruitment ceremony only that the guru is being allotted to these chelas. And as I told you that in 2010, one in 2010 and the another in 2012, the 2 sammilans had taken place in Jammu. And these sammilans actually take place for 3 purposes. One, for recruitment ceremony. Second, for the marriage ceremony. I'll tell you how marriage. And third is for mourning the death of the member. So when I started looking at these ceremonies sociologically, what I could see was that the Guru-Chela relationship was important. So during this recruitment ceremony, the newborn is made to sit in the lap to determine the sex of the child, given a female name, female attire to wear, instructed not to cut the hair. Chela is made to sit in the center, gifted with salwar kameez with some jewelry. They keep a pan leaf on the hand with some shagun. And the guru keeps a red colored dupatta on the head and announces the name of the chela. The nose and the ears of the new recruit is then pierced, and they are gifted with gold rings and nose pins. Now, this ceremony is not celebrated immediately after the recruitment. See, if the guru has died, now the chela needs to be recruited with the other dera, and the another guru is to be allotted to that chela. So after the death of that guru, immediately that this recruitment ceremony does not start. This recruitment ceremony only takes place when these kind of sammilans take place. And in sammilans का जो broad name देते हैं, वो बोलते हैं this is the roti function. Now see, you can see the pictures which I have actually clicked from the albums of these third gender people in Jammu. This is a recruitment ceremony where the new recruit is being given a new dera, a new household with the new guru. Now, as I told you, family and household in the form of dera. Now, this is imagined family institution, which we as researchers have used this term, imagined family institution and imagined marriage institution. So, because the household now they belong to is a kind of an imagined family institution for them. And they also undergo the institution of marriage because they think that they are being stigmatized also on this basis that they cannot marry. because they are neither man nor woman, so they can't marry. So in order to overcome that stigma, though now it is very important to sensitize them that marriage is not something which is important, and one cannot be stigmatized because one is not getting married. But they, because society normally, because even we are doing researches on the never married man and women also. I'm into the research on these people also. So still, for a normal male or a female, if they are not married at a specific age, still somewhere the society, because we are living in an orthodox society, so some kind of stigma is there. But one can still see that what kind of trauma and stigmatization these people undergo when they are being designated as neither man nor woman. So now Roti, as I told you, because paucity of time, I'll be skipping few of these slides. Roti, as I told you, is a gathering to mourn for the dead. So the mourning take place, and it is similar to the mourning which takes place at the time of a normal human being which has died. Now, Roti, a ceremony of imagined marriages. This is very important. I'll read this slide. The ritual of marriage is celebrated among them also, but in a different form. During the function of Roti, one member becomes the bride, another becomes bridegroom. The other community members then bring gifts in the form of clothes, ornament, utensils for these brides and bridegroom. Marriage is performed along with the reciprocal exchange of gifts among the members of Biradri. Now, very important is the next paragraph. Please listen carefully. This ceremony is generally performed to just imitate the institution of marriage. But after this marriage, it is not necessary for these third gender persons to live together. Every third gender once in his or her lifetime becomes the bride or the bridegroom. So one needs to understand this, that once in a life they become a bride and a bridegroom, and one gets to see lot many marriages taking place during the Roti function. So therefore one could see these third gender people practicing what, as student of sociology, I have given the term imagined marriages. So they are imagining the institution of marriage. The next important is this Roti function also has the ceremony of mother-daughter relationship. So ceremony of Doodh Pilai also take place because they now want to have a bond. So the Doodh Ma sits cross-legged, pulls her blouse up while holding her baby in her lap as any nursing mother would. She then pours some milk using a cup held over her breast into the mouth of the baby. Baby is the new recruit, thereby sealing the bond of sealing the relationship with her milk. To further seal the bond, now because now the guru becomes the mother, the chela is the beti, and the other chela becomes the sisters. So even to forge this bond, the sister bond, each of the doodh behens, what they will do is they will just prick their finger and let a few drops of blood flow into the cup of milk, which is then shared by all of them. So now they are forging a bond, which is a bond of mother and a daughter, mother, and sisters. So these are some of the pictures of this marriage ceremony. You can see the gold ornaments, the gifts which are being brought, the Sangeet ceremony taking place, see the Bharat coming in, the other members dancing, and you can see the image of the bride and the bridegroom. So after marriage, it is not necessary for them to live together, but once in their lifetime, they are going to imitate this institution of marriage, thus giving a message that yes, we also undergo these kind of marriages. You can see the henna also on the hands of the bride, and the how well the bridegroom is also looking, similar to the normal marriages which take place. Now this is Haji Mia Saima, who is the head of the Khusra Biradari in Jammu. And this is the child which was, she says that the child was left outside the door and they have been taking care of this child, and this child is also the third gender person. Now coming on to the problems. So when we talk about the problems, there is this issue of social stigma, because there is a gap between their actual social identity and virtual social identity. So for an individual, whenever there is going to be a gap between the actual and the virtual, there is going to be this problem of stigma. Discrimination at all fronts. They are being discriminated at the family level. They are being discriminated at the society level also. Right to residence is not there. You will not find any third gender people accommodated on rent. So rented accommodation they are not going to have. So they are left with no other option but to join the deras. Employment in Jammu, we could not see. We still see them only in the Badai collection purposes. during the Badai collection ceremonies. And when we ask them that we get to see the some of the third gender people at the into this begging profession also, say the head outrightly rejects, saying that they do not belong to our community and they are the ones who might have migrated or the ones who are doing it just for the economic benefit. Education, we cannot see, yes. But if I talk about education, let me quote here the time period of COVID-19. COVID-19, when it was a time for the crisis for all of us. So some positive thing the COVID picture has brought in for this third gender people in Jammu. Many of them joined colleges because the classes were online, because they were not to reveal their identity, because they felt that this stigma would be less in an online class as compared to the offline class. Now, why this stigma is there? Because the other people in the society are not sensitized, they are not aware. So we know few of the cases where they have been able to do their graduation because the education was online. Healthcare services, even during the COVID times, they argued that healthcare services nil. They do not had separate COVID wards. So they actually wanted the separate COVID wards for them. Toilets. You see in the marketplaces also, you do not have toilets for this third gender or vis-a-vis transgender people. Certificate of identity. So now the new act or the bill of the transgender persons, they are talking about all these things. They are talking about discrimination, right to residence, employment, education, healthcare, toilet, identity certificate is also there. Now, what impact one can see of this exclusion and discrimination? So the impact is there is dropping out of school during the earlier stages of life. They leave their home and family very early when they get to see that they are not being able to fit into the norms of being male or female. They are unable to find regular jobs. They have less options than others. So being ignored in the community and isolated, they are unable to access various services and unaware of what they are entitled to. So we hardly see active, I'm specifically talking about my Jammu area, active NGOs working for them. Now we have a NGO which is yet to get registered, Queers of Jammu, who are doing a lot of work, but on the transgenders of Jammu. So restricted mobility, so they have very restricted areas to move. So very important is lack of family and social support. We need to create the awareness, the general awareness regarding that these people actually need the support of the family, the support from the other social networks, so that we do not get to see them in a more excluded space. So to make them more inclusive, we need to have the support of the family and the other agencies in the society. Now, they also migrate to other countries for seeking safer livelihood and acceptance. Very, very important is, I have seen, I get to know since I've started working from the year 2010, I've heard so many cases of suicide, not from Jammu, but from other parts of the country, where, because I have been associated with these third gender people and the transgender people from Chandigarh also, and I get to see so many cases of suicide where they have committed suicide because they have not been able to manage their lives. Now they decide to follow their parents, to marry opposite sex and then divorce. I've seen cases where there was a pressure to these people, where pressure from the family level not to unhide their identity, and the identity is being hidden and they are forced to marry. I have few of the cases of the transgender people in Jammu where they have married, and after having the baby out of that marital alliance, they have undergone sex surgeries, and because they think they're trapped in a wrong body. So one actually needs to understand not only their perspectives, but even the perspectives of their family members. I will skip all this act and bill also, I'm skipping, but I'm just talking, I will focus on the Transgender Welfare Board, which is now being formed in Jammu. Now, this board was formed in July 2022, but to my surprise, I don't know, I may be wrong, but till date, I have been checking up. There is hardly anything which came forward regarding the welfare of these people. It is still on papers. One really needs to work on this. One really needs to generate the sensitization activities from the government sides also, because we have Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment who is doing a lot of things, but at the local level also we need, because there are people, the board comprises of the chief secretary, administrative secretaries of home, finance, health, education, law, justice, parliamentary affairs, department at its member. So we have Director General, Social Welfare Kashmir as member secretary, and Director General, Social Welfare Jammu as its members, besides other members. So we are actually looking forward to some of the programs which might initiate from their side and will help in creating the awareness for the people. And with this, I thank you all for patient listening, and maybe I would love to have some queries and maybe questions, because I'm still into the working of these, looking at the life of these people, and I'm still comparing the life of third gender with the transgenders, and I'm sure your questions will definitely going to boost up my work and give me a more insight how to move on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hema ma'am. Thank you, Hema ma'am, for showing us how these transgender people are different from the third gender, that the term we use, for showing us their life, how they live. They are normal people like us. The only difference is that the society is not accepting them. We need to sensitize people right from their childhood, so that we don't have to give special privileges to them, and they are understood and they are welcomed as part of the society. We don't need, so that there a time is there where we don't have some special laws for them, though we can have some special schools for their upliftment, special policies for their upliftment, but we don't need to make a different category for them. When we understand them, we accept them, we welcome them as a part of the family. And this will start by even sensitize the family of these children, so that when they're born, they are accepted by their family themselves. Because if society accepts them, then the social stigma will also be removed, and they will be accepted by each and everyone in the society.
Yeah, very well deliberated by Dr. Hema ma'am. Ma'am, wonderful presentation. It appears as a complete research that you have done, and also with the blessings of the God that you got an opportunity to work for the third gender. As we believe that they are very lucky, and their blessings, as we meet them and when they touch our heads, we are blessed. Naturally, we are blessed. This is the idea with which I was grown up. And very wonderful having you on the panel, ma'am. We will take up a few questions a little later. However, there is an observation that Jammu and Kashmir has set up a welfare board for the transgenders. That is a very welcome move. And I'm sure that as Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas, Sabke Vishwas ke saath, the way our country is progressing, I think this is a total inclusive approach by the government and also the ministry who has helped us in giving us this project. We are very thankful to the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and that now we have a dedicated cell for the transgenders and disability rights cell. So anybody who has a problem related with transgender persons, or if many people who are listening to us, if you feel we can help you in any way, please visit our office at gate number 2A of Amity University premises, and please note down the number of the office, that is 0120-439-2807. I repeat the number of Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, Disability Rights and Transgender Persons Rights Cell is 0120-439-2807. Also, there are so many policies and regulations, as ma'am has very wonderfully deliberated, but there is a need for inclusive approach. Much that we need to sensitize both on the legal as well as the law enforcement systems, in particular towards the issues related especially with the transgenders' rights. So having said so, it's time now that I would most humbly and delightfully welcome our next esteemed speaker, Dr. Vijeta Verma ma'am from Christ University. Over to you, Dr. Vijeta Verma. Ma'am, you're on mute. Sorry, ma'am, we can't hear you. No, ma'am. Ma'am, I think if you can take out the earphones, probably you can speak with the system mic here. No, ma'am, not audible. Arvind, sir, can you help us?
Ma'am, just log out and log in once again, please.
Ma'am, your system sound, you check the volume of the system, ma'am?
Ma'am, it's a mic issue
Acha.
because he's listening us.
Okay. Vijeta, ma'am, you can log out and then log in again. No, ma'am. Sorry, we can't hear you. Mic issues, maybe the internet issue,
Is
ma'am?
it,
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
audible now?
Yes, ma'am, audible. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Over to
thank you so much.
Ma'am, again, we lost you. Yes. No, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Now audible. Now fix the mic there itself. Yes.
Yeah, I'm fixing it
Yes.
right. I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
No.
Good evening, everyone present here. And thank you so much, MIT University, for inviting me. And can I share my PPT?
Yes, ma'am. Please share, ma'am.
So I would like to start with the introduction that was transgender is. Before that, as we all know, that is an act which is passed by the parliament, and it is very much functioning. And if we can see the change, so the position of transgenders is much more better now as it was earlier, right? So because we are still progressing, it's still we are accepting the people who are transgenders. So starting with that presentation. Okay. So start with the introduction. Education, you all know what is education is. So education is very essential for the development of any democratic country, right? In India, as we are a democratic country, it's very essential. So the spirit of the Indian Constitution is also to provide the equal opportunity to every citizen. And a citizen word itself includes transgenders, and every person, every citizen will reside within the territory of India to grow and to attain their potential irrespective of the caste, religion, or gender. Again, we are using the word gender. So gender itself includes transgender as well, right? So education is not only meant for the persons, it is basically meant for every citizen respective of any gender. So let's start with the main presentation. That's what is gender mean, transgender, who is transgender. So basically transgender person is someone whose gender does not match once assigned to them at birth, right? So the term includes trans men and trans women, whether or not they have undergone a sex reassignment surgery or hormone or laser or any other such therapy. It also includes person with intersex variations, gender queer persons, and those having such social cultural identities as Kinnar, Hijra, or Jogata. So mainly the transgender definition is given under the Act itself. Our main topic for the discussion is the education and transgender and their education. So I would like to take the pre-act scenario. What was the pre-act scenario? What was the problem which a transgender person has to face? Right. So transgenders, basically, they are deprived from the social environment. Nobody was ready to give them admission in the school because they were like, they will create nuisance in the school. They will, that's why they always feel like abandoned, right? So they were mostly they are forced by their school to leave their school, and that is why the transgender student has to drop out the school at a very early stage. And they face harassment, they face mental harassment, they face physical harassment, and are bullied every day by the school students. So these are some positions which we face pre-act, that means before the passing of this act. And that is the only reason, because they are deprived of the school environment, they are mostly dropouts, and they are face many types of harassment, they are bullied every day, and they are mostly uneducated. This is the main reason, that's why they remains uneducated in our society. Though they are the part of our Indian society, still they become uneducated. So this is the scenario which was basically faced. As I already told, that it's now, we are now in a progressive nature, we are progressing each and every day. Now we are accepting transgender persons, we are ready to accept them as a part of our society. So these are something which we usually face before the passing of this act of 2019. So if we talk about the education right of a transgender person, so this act of 2019 itself makes it mandate that education institution, that is, it's very compulsory for every education institution to follow all the policies which are meant for the state, and to enroll the transgender student in the mainstreams education, and that too without any discrimination. That means they are not allowed to allow any kind of discrimination on the basis of gender. So it also includes the government should formulate welfare schemes to transport the transgender person in earning a livelihood. Because if we provide an education, if we will not provide a livelihood, then what is the use of the education? They must be trained in such a manner so that after getting education, they must be able to earn their livelihood peacefully and independently. So the right of, we'll start with the different acts now. So if first of all, we study about 2019 Act. Now the Right to Education Act itself, Right to Education Act of 2019 itself defines transgender community as a disadvantaged group and advocates on the education in the mainstream schools. That is why 25% reservation are given to the transgender kids under the economically and disadvantaged section of the society. It is not specifically given that it is given for the transgender kids only. No, it's not specifically given, but we can interpret it. We can interpret it after reading the words disadvantaged group and the economically backward group. So in that case, the Right to Education itself provide 25% reservation to the students or the kids or the children which are economically a disadvantaged section of the society. That's why we can find an idea that is specifically it is equally applicable to the transgender kids as well. So there are some initiatives which are taken by universities and by the departments and by the states, which I'm talking about now. So first of all, Delhi University acknowledged the transgender students. So after the initiation of that act and many policies and many frameworks, the Delhi government finally acknowledges the transgender students, and it has a student for the first time by introducing a column for a third gender in its application form. So it's a great start by the university, by the Central University, that the Central University itself gave the recognition, itself gave the introduction, and itself introduction a column for the third gender in its application form. So they can easily apply for the Central University, right? So this is also one of the good initiative which is taken by the Delhi University. IGNOU admission now, it's after the Delhi University, this IGNOU admission is there. After this act, 814 transgender students have been enrolled in the last 5 years. It's a great achievement. So because we are still progressing, as I said, we are progressing, we are accepting them as a member of our community. So the 814 transgender student has been enrolled in the IGNOU in last 5 years. And one of the most important things that IGNOU announced a fee waiver for the transgender student. That means it's a great initiative which is taken by the IGNOU. So IGNOU is also taking a view that it should waive the fees for the transgender students so that they can come in a group, and they are equally eligible to get admission and to do their research and study in different departments of the IGNOU. So this is also a special education program which is taken initiative by different states. So first I would like to start with the Kerala state, which is the first in the country to unveil the transgender policy, which aim to put a stopper on the societal stigma toward the minority community. So the government has initiated a special education program for the transgender community in the state. India's primary school for the transgender opens in Kochi. So the education institution will not only provide the education, but will also address the issues related to the violence of the related to the transgender abuse or any other form of discrimination. This is one of the first initiative which is taken by the Kerala government. Next, we have the other initiative which is taken by the Karnataka government, Maharashtra government, and Gujarat. So first, I would like to take one by one. In October 2017 itself, so the Karnataka government issued the state policy for the transgender 2017 to raise the awareness of transgender people within all the education institutions in the state. So the Karnataka government also established a monitoring committee to investigate all the matters related to the discrimination against any transgender person within the educational departments. In February 2019 itself, the Maharashtra government also set up a transgender welfare board to conduct the health program and provide formal education and employment opportunity to transgender people. So this board provide skill development program as well, so that a transgender person can easily find a job and also help them to seek scholarship and free accommodation facility as well. So in February again, in the same year, the state of Gujarat also established a board for the transgender person. The board provides various welfare program for employment and education and coordinate with the state department to ensure that the transgender community can take advantage of the government schemes. An educational campaign was also established to sanitize the people. An educational campaign for transgender is also initiated by the Gujarat government as well. This is something which I've talked about. Next, we have the Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is the state which announced a welfare policy for the transgender called Aravani, which along with the many initiatives also include the admission of the transgender person in the government colleges with the full scholarship. So for the higher studies. So these are some initiatives which is taken by the states, like we have Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Karnataka, which we actually working just to upgrade the status of the transgender person in the society, to give the formal education to the transgender kids. And this is something which they are doing for the progressive or doing in the favor of the transgender children. So next we have the constitutional provision, nothing new, which I'm going to tell everyone know about the constitutional provision. But see, Article 15 talks about the special provision for the women and children. If you talk about the children, if you interpret Article 15 Clause 3, the word children itself includes children of the transgender as well. It is not written here that the children of a male or female. It's given children. Children can be interpreted as a children of transgender as well. So again, Article 15 Clause 4 empowers them to make special provision for the advancement of the educationally and socially backward classes. That is again, if we interpret Article 15 Clause 4, it talks about advancement of economically and socially and educationally backward classes, and transgender community is one of them, because they are educationally backward, they are socially backward, so we can give more stress for the education benefits, right? So we should work, the state government or the central government should work for the advancement of the education. The government should work for the social for the upliftment for them. So Article 15 Clause 5 again lays down the provision for the reservation admissions into the school and colleges, including the private education institutions. Again, if you interpret all these articles, we can easily infer an idea that it also includes the transgender person as well, because here the children word is used, the transgender children can be taken. Here the advancement of educational socially backward classes is used, so we can take as a transgender educationally backward, socially backward. If you talk about Article 15 Clause 5, we can again we can infer an idea that it can be for the transgender person. So by interpreting all these article clauses, we can infer an idea that it is also meant for the benefit, for the upliftment of the transgender person in the community. Article 21A, that is right to education, and Article 21A, it came into force on 1st April 2010 only. Under this, every child, if you interpret this word every child, that it includes also transgender child, right? So it is between 6 to 14 years of age has a right to free and compulsory education in India. So it is specifically meant for every children who are residing in the territory of India, and the child, it is equally applicable on the child of transgenders as well. So the free education implies that no child admitted in the government school is liable to pay any fee or expenses which would otherwise prevent them from pursuing elementary education. So the compulsory education makes the local authority responsible for ensuring admission and the completion of the elementary education. So by this Article 21, we can easily say that yes, this is specifically meant for, this is not specifically for this person or for that person or for that student or this student, specifically for every children in the society, every children within the territory of India. So it is equally applicable to the children of the transgender as well. So, but still we are facing any, because we are still in the progression, right? So where there's something to do, we still have to do something for the upliftment. We still have to do we have to take many initiative to make them educated. So from my side of view, these are some conclusion remark which we can do, right? We should educate the parents first, because this is the state responsibility to provide the free and elementary education. But who is going to send them to the school? The parents only, right? So the parents should be educated to provide the basic education to their children, irrespective of their gender. And teachers and school management should be sensitized regarding the content delivery speech, specifically to the transgender students, as they should not be feel abandoned and ignored. So sensitization of children, sensitization of teachers, school management and classmates can only be inclusion of transgender children's success, and they should not be treated separately, right? They should not be feel ignored. They should not be feel like nobody is there to look after us. So they should not be treated separately and should be encouraged to take part in every activity of the school. So this is something which we can do for the upliftment of the education, for the upliftment of the transgender children. So but still, but still the socio-economic condition of transgender people in a country clearly shows that education is still not adequately provided to the student in every corner of the country. They are still not accepted as dignified member of the society. Hence, making education institution and school child-friendly is the urgent need of the hour. So if we want to educate the child of a transgender, we have to make, or the transgender child, we have to make a child-friendly schools, so that he can open up, he can easily express his opinion, he can easily put forward his reviews, whatever he is feeling, what he is feeling is actually feeling in the school atmosphere. And he should be, or she should be more encouraged to participate in every activity, whatever is happening in the school. So apart from this act, and we have 2009 act of the Right to Education Act, and we have constitutional provisions, we have Article 14 right to equality, we have Article 15, we have 29, 30. There's so many articles which specifically meant for the citizen of the country. And apart from this, we have many international conventions like ICCPR, we have ICER, UDHR is there. So many conventions are there which are specifically mentioned to uphold the dignity of an individual, to uphold the dignity and respect of a person, and person itself include transgenders as well. So from my side, that's all, and thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vijeta Verma, ma'am. Indeed, a wonderful presentation. Many learnings, and especially the manner in which you have made the PPT very inclusive to the subject. That's really wonderful and commendable. So we will take up a few questions after we have one more speaker. So
Thank you.
apart from what ma'am has said, there is an addendum. Of course, yes, that we do require a multi-pronged approach to focus on the awareness. Campaigns that are required to sensitize the society about the transgenders, to make them more inclusive. Because ultimately, they are getting the education in schools or colleges, fine, but the society needs to be more sensitized. We have to include them in everything and make a part of our lives too. So the effective functioning of the National Council for Transgender Persons will also be more effective if institutions like Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, which is the one committee which engages more than 500 students in this committee for so many welfare activities that we are doing at Amity Law School, Noida. I think we need to work hand in hand with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and we are very thankful to the ministry who has shown trust in us that we will be able to help the society in contributing our bit to the transgender persons. Thanks also to founder president Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan sir, who always believes in us and who is more confident than on us than we ourselves are. Thank you, Dr. Vijeta. Our next speaker is the former Senior Research Fellow, UGC, and now Assistant Professor at Amity Law School, Noida. Dear colleague, Ms. Kartika Bakshi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sumitra ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
A very good evening to all of you. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to extend a hearty thank you to Professor Dr. Aditya Tomar, Ms. Sumitra, Dr. Sumitra Singh, Dr. Nitin Sharma. Thank you so much for inviting me on this platform. I would also like to greet all the panelists who spoke before me. You were truly delightful, and the presentations that were made by you were extremely informative, and they added to my knowledge. Now I would like to share my presentation. And please give me 2 minutes. I'll share my presentation.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, I'll request everybody to pose the questions for the esteemed panelists. You can type in the chat box or in the Q&A session. Thank you.
So ma'am, is my presentation visible now?
Yes, ma'am, we can see the screen, yeah.
Okay, so since the topic for this webinar was inclusive education within the Transgender Persons Act 2019 and Rules 2020, I focused mainly on education as well as on the human right of education. Since I have a background in human rights law, so I would like to begin my presentation now. Education is a human right with immense power to transform. Kofi Annan. Now, right to education has been recognized since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. It is Article 26 of the UDHR, which talks about the right to education. It is also enshrined in the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, and the UNESCO's Convention Against Discrimination in Education. As defined by General Comment Number 13 of the United Nations Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the international education is both a human right in itself and an indispensable means of realizing other human rights, which means that if you are not educated, you stand a very minimal chance of realizing all your other rights. So education is the basic right, which ensures that we go on to realize our other human rights. Now, it has a vital role in empowering women, safeguarding children from exploitative and hazardous labor and sexual exploitation, promoting human rights and democracy, protecting the environment, and controlling population growth. Now, it is one of the best financial statements that the state can make. However, its importance is not just practical. A well-educated, enlightened, and active mind, able to wander freely and widely, is one of the joys and rewards of human existence. Now, when it comes to international law, we have the Yogyakarta principles. These principles are those which deal with the human rights of those people who do not conform to the sexual orientation or the gender identities that are traditionally acceptable. Now, the right to education without discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity is also set out in the Yogyakarta principles. 10 years down the line, we have the Yogyakarta principles plus 10, and principle 16 of the Yogyakarta plus 10, it related to the right to education. Now, it ensured inclusion of comprehensive, affirmative, and accurate material on sexual, biological, physical, and psychological diversity, and the human rights of people of diverse sexual orientations, gender identities, gender expressions, and sex characteristics in curricula, taking into consideration the evolving capacity of the child, which means that your curriculum has to be framed in a manner that you are taking into consideration the stage at which the child is in, right? And the second thing that it guaranteed was that this inclusion has to be there in teacher training and continuing professional development programs. Now coming to India, so we have, apart from the Constitution of India and the Transgender Persons Protection Rights Act, we have certain other provisions as well. So first of all, I would like to start with the Constitution. So you have Article 14, 15, 16, 19, 21, 21A, and 23, as has already been discussed by the previous panelist. Now, the Right to Education Act 2009, it guarantees a 25% reservation in seats under EWS and the disadvantaged category under the Right to Education Act. Then you have obviously the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. And there are two sections which are of particular importance in this act. One is the section 3A. Now 3A, it prohibits discrimination. So it says that no person shall be denied or discontinued or treated unfairly in an educational establishment. And the other very important section is that of section 30. Now section 30 obligates educational institutes to provide inclusive education to transgender persons. Now you have, I think, the discussion about rights of transgenders in India, and particularly the right to education for transgender persons, is incomplete without discussing the Nalsa versus Union of India judgment 2014. Now in this judgment, the court recognized that denying education to a transgender person is a violation of the right to equality before law and equal protection of law. Further, the court directed that the state is bound to take affirmative action for the inclusion of transgender persons in educational systems. The court also quoted the Yogacarata principles, and according to that, it reiterated that education itself can be used as a tool to eliminate prejudice and discrimination against gender and sexually marginalized groups. So education is itself a tool when we are talking about eliminating this discrimination that exists against the people who do not conform to traditional gender identities. Now, apart from the Nalsa judgment, the UGC also has from time to time taken out circulars to regulate make your educational institutions, particularly those educational institutions which deal in higher education, more gender inclusive or transgender friendly. So we had a circular in 2014, then in 2015, then UGC also recorded an interest in awarding major research grants to ethnographers who would collaborate with transgender persons to provide insights into the life and culture of transgender persons in India. So UGC has been taking steps. They also tried to introduce a concept which is called as gender champions. And they said that every campus is supposed to have a gender champion whose work would be to take a lead on gender sensitization on the campus. However, it was not made clear as to who would be this gender champion, whether transgenders were eligible to be gender champions. And it said that they needed to have excellent understanding, but it was not elaborated. So we were not clear whether the champions needed to be necessarily trans-sensitive or not. So now we are coming to the Act, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. So as has already been discussed before, we have section 2K of the Act, which defines transgender, and it means a person whose gender does not match with the gender assigned to that person at birth, and includes trans man or trans woman. Persons with intersex variations, gender queer, and person having such socio-cultural identities as Kinna, Hijra, Aravani, and Jogta are also included within the definition of transgender person under the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act. Now, this act prohibits discrimination against transgender persons in educational institutions, as we have already seen under section 3 clause A. And another important thing is that it expands the ambit of education to include opportunities for sports, recreation, and leisure in educational institutions. So, which means that we cannot exclude transgender children from participating in sports activities or in any cultural activities or in any activities that are otherwise open to all these cisgendered children. Now, what is inclusive education? Again, the Act gives us a very good definition. So, Section 2D of the Act defines inclusive education means a system of education wherein transgender students learn together with other students without fear of discrimination, neglect, harassment, or intimidation. And the system of teaching and learning is suitably adapted to meet the learning needs of such students. So there has to be an absence of fear of discrimination, neglect, harassment, etc. And also the environment must be such that these people are able to educate themselves also. However, one of the drawbacks of the Act is that it remains silent on reservations for transgender persons in higher education and employment. Now, coming to the rules. Now, we have Rule 10 of the Transgender Persons Rules. And again, this provides that there should be a welfare board which has to be constituted to facilitate the access to schemes and welfare measures taken by the government for the protection of the transgender person's right. So we have to review all the existing social, educational, and health schemes to include transgender persons and to formulate new schemes to be transgender sensitive, non-stigmatizing, and non-discriminatory. Now, it also provides for the sensitization of teachers and faculties in schools and colleges, changes in educational curriculum to foster respect for equality and gender diversity. And it says that all the educational institutions shall have a committee which shall be accessible for transgender persons in case of any harassment or discrimination. So we do have provisions for that. So we do have a committee at Amity here itself, the Legal Aid Committee. Now, it also calls for conducting sensitization programs in educational institutes. Now, when it comes to reservation for transgender persons, so it has been discussed in a lot of cases, and there was one case which is Tamil Nadu Medical Officers Association and Others Association of India. And in this case, the Supreme Court of India ruled that state governments, in addition to the central government, have powers to grant reservations for marginalized groups in higher education. And Karnataka was one of the first states to grant 1% reservation to transgender people in higher education. Now, in the Nalsa judgment, the court directed that the central and the state governments recognize transgender persons as people from a socially and economically backward class and extend appropriate reservations in admissions. However, this seems to be an issue because intersectionally marginalized Dalit transgender persons have critiqued the reservation provisions of Nalsa judgment. They point out that vertical reservation provision, where all the transgender persons will be clubbed under the other backward class category or the OBC category, it would lead to an erasure of the intersectional realities of the transgender lives that are further complicated by the violence of casteism. In contrast, they have demanded a horizontal reservation, where a separate category of reservations is instituted for transgender persons. So they have actually asked for something which is called as horizontal and compartmentalized reservation. So they demand that the demand is that admissions to an educational institution they should be evaluated on the basis of a merit list prepared for candidates from SC, ST, OBC, or OC backgrounds, and then within those categories there should be reservation for the transgender people as well. So horizontal reservation plus compartmentalized. And like I stated, Karnataka state government was the first state in the country to do so. Now, coming to the national education policy. So again, the national education policy, it provides universal access to quality education. And by universal access, obviously, it means that we are recognizing the transgender people as a socially economically disadvantaged group. I think the tricky part here is that while they have recognized the transgender person as a SEDG, but the issue is that they have been placed in the broader category of gender marginal groups, which includes female and transgender individuals. Now, I do believe that there should be separate categories for both, for female and transgender individuals. However, under the national education policy, they have been clubbed under a single heading. It also talks about creating a gender inclusion fund. So again, to increase access to education for all girls as well as transgender students. The NEP 2020 also mandates that the sensitization on gender identity should be carried out in all higher education institutions for faculty, council, and students, and that this also be incorporated into the curricula. Again, this is somewhere in consonance with the Yogikarata principles of 2017. Now, we also have the comprehensive accessibility guidelines and standards for higher education institutions and universities 2022. Now, this is a document from the UGC, and it aims to ensure equitable and inclusive access to quality education. The document largely focuses on persons with disabilities, but does not contain parts that refer to or are of interest, but does contain parts that refer to or are of interest to transgender persons in higher education in India. So here again, we see that they have tried to club in persons with disabilities along with transgender persons. So again, I think clubbing was unnecessary. Now these guidelines, they list the specific needs of transgender persons in higher educational institutions, and it follows that that they may need emotional, behavioral, and psychosocial support. They may need support in campus records and documents. They may require assistance in participation of activities and use of facilities. Further, the document provides examples of support for gender needs and transgender persons, such as there should be gender-friendly classroom environment and transaction, and develop positive self-concept and self-esteem among students. Now, this is very important because it talks about educating the educators. When it comes to education and when it comes to dealing with children, it is the teachers who are the first point of contact between them and the outer world. So if the teacher is transphobic, we are obviously going to see repercussions on the mental health of the child who does not conform to the traditional gender identities. And that is why it is important to sensitize the people who are coming into contact with children on a regular basis. So it is imperative that students be and feel fully recognized in academic spaces. As faculty, we have great power in creating an inclusive and welcoming classroom where all students can thrive. Respecting pronouns and using gender inclusive language can help students feel like they belong in the classroom and be fully present in their academic experience. Now, the following are some of the best practices and resources for fostering more inclusive classrooms and supporting all students, specifically transgender, gender non-conforming, non-binary, gender questioning, and other gender diverse students. So we can set the tone for our classrooms, and there are certain practices that as a teacher you can follow, as a teacher that I can follow. So these practices are like offering my name and pronoun when introducing myself to the class, then substituting gendered language for more inclusive language, such as everybody, folks, or this person. When in doubt about what pronouns someone uses, use the student's name or gender neutral pronoun they, them. Apologize when you make a mistake and misgender someone. If someone is misgendered, politely provide a correction, whether the person who was misgendered is present or not. For writing intensive courses, provide students the opportunity to use they, them, their pronouns in papers to refer to a singular person rather than less gender inclusive options like he or she. And also, I think we can be more inclusive when it comes to framing of our syllabi. So when selecting readings and other materials, be intentional about including perspective from transgender scholars and thinkers throughout the syllabus when possible. Integrate supplemental materials such as videos or additional resources that use voices from the transgender communities. For courses in fields like STEM, businesses, etc., where there may not be easily identifiable transgender content to include in the course, consider using case studies or examples from the field that include transgender people and communities. Now, research has demonstrated that educators who are openly supportive of transgender people and who positively include these topics in the curriculum are critical to ensuring safe and affirming schools for all students. Supportive educators are one of the 4 core supports that improves school climates for transgender youth, along with comprehensive non-discrimination and anti-bullying policies, access to inclusive curriculum, and access to GSAs. GSAs are gender and sexuality alliances. Now, these are some of the recommendations that I came up with. They're obviously not exhaustive. So we say that education is the cornerstone of democracy. So as such, we have a shared responsibility to ensure that every child receives a quality education, that every learner has what they need to not only learn, but thrive in school. Given this, teachers, educators, and pre-service education programs and institutions have a pedagogical and democratic responsibility to produce teachers who are not only skilled and capable of creating and maintaining classrooms, hallways, and learning communities that are safe and informing for all learners, but also those who are confident in their abilities and consistent in their practice. Any equity and inclusion intervention must be grounded in the NALSA judgment, uphold the right to self-determination of gender, and aim to implement horizontal and compartmentalized reservations in education. They should not be limited just to students, but also for hiring in faculty, staff, and administrative roles. There need to be practical checks, including periodic audits on whether the reservation provisions are being implemented. Other than that, we need to have a transparent, participatory regulation-making process where students are treated as the main stakeholders in the administrative process, be it for scholarships, hostel rules, drafting of the interim trans policy, which has been implemented. And sorry, so this is not there. A gender and sexual minorities officer should be appointed to address the grievances of gender and sexual minorities in educational institutes. And we can introduce courses of varying credits on sexual orientation and gender minorities, for which experts should be invited to teach these subjects. So we are currently holding a webinar, and the purpose of that webinar is to bridge the gap between what is and what ought to be. And I think that it is a very good initiative. However, I do feel like that we need to have participation from the people of the transgender community. And one suggestion that I would like to give is that rather than one-day training programs, institutions should support regular and ongoing programs where people can converse about emerging dilemmas and questions with respect to the inclusion of transgender person in the Indian educational ecosystem. I think that is all. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for listening to me patiently. I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kartika ma'am. Again, a wonderful presentation. Let's have a round of applause for all the panelists today. Wonderful presentations by everyone. So it's time. The time is now of the audience, and there are many questions that have come up to us. And this question is specifically for Dr. Naresh Mahipal. So, sir, after Delhi University put in the third gender as the gender option in the application forms, did you see any kind of a change in the university premises? Because the transgender people have already seen a lot of discrimination in the society, and now that this way things are made more inclusive, did you see any changes in the manner in which people were talking in the campus? How many students would have come up to you? What has been your experience, Dr. Naresh?
Yeah, over to you. Right. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Yeah.
Thank you. We have introduced this examination, examination goes. And I've been a part of the this community after so many years. I've gone through those students who actually came to admission in Delhi University, especially when I talk about languages. We them differently. Although some questions crop, maybe we and different students, this crop in the minds of the students and the teachers itself. But I've never observed, because I'm one of those demonstration rituals, I've never seen any kind of such case. I've never observed kind of irritation or the problems that are created by students, the trans children, or these third gender reason that the students who are into the institute specific area. What happens is our students, I have been a student of state university itself, but I can a particular region, we have a particular mindset related very not to adopt changes in our society. But when they enter central university, the third, what is seen in the, you have been to Delhi University to see the diversity and that changes. What I am talking about it, that this problem can be resolved. It is care of, but at a later stage. Immediately, to treat these with inferiority, they needs to have their mindset changed. And this is what I think that students of Delhi University have changed their mindset. They are ready to everything. And what let us try to celebrate the differences created by the nature, which they have adopted in the. So I've never seen any kind of discrimination that has been faced by the transgenders, any kind of case that has been reported till date. I've never seen that. Anything else I can explain or what?
No, sir. I understood that, and all of us rather. Yeah, thank you. So now next question is for Hema ma'am. Hema ma'am, can you hear me and see me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
okay. So ma'am, you had given us wonderful presentation. Actually, it seemed as if you are there right in the field and presenting to us the things. So ma'am, have these people, have the transgender people ever met you in person and discussed the things with you? Like the research that you had shown is a ground research, but then have they been to you personally and have they spoken to you about the psychological problems that they have been facing? Because it's accepted that they have really faced discrimination and criticism in the society. So now that you did this research, which was very wonderfully presented, so ma'am, did they come to you and did they speak to you? Did they speak their heart out to you?
Ms. Singh, yes, they did meet me, but there are certain issues where certain things, their issues which need to be kept confidential because they have been discussing with me. And as I told you, as I quoted one of the case study where I said that COVID has somewhere brought in the positive impacts for them, where they could actually enroll in the school, in the colleges also. And I know some of the transgender, because the presentation I made was on third gender people, but I know some of the transgender people who have completed their graduation and have boldly come forward, because now there is an NGO which is formed under the name of Queers of Jammu, and they are actively participating in that. Why? Because they want other transgender persons also to come forward and discuss their issues. I have few of the case studies, but since they are my respondents, and I have been told to Abhi, as of now, keep their issues with me in the sense, because I have to maintain that the report here, the rapport thing also, and not highlighting maybe their case studies right now, because there are certain family issues also being involved. As I told you, broadly, जो मैंने बीच में mention किया था, I know one of the case study where the person has undergone the sex surgery, and there are not just the problems with these transgender people, but they have problems at the family level also. So I also know one of the activists who is one of the founder members of the Queer from Jammu, and want to participate in the discussions, but simultaneously wants to keep the identity also hidden, not to be identified as transgender, because that fellow is still into education, wants the education to be completed, wants some employment opportunity. So once he gets into employment, and then only he says that he'll be able to come forward and maybe discuss his own side of the story. So these are the issues which generally encounter. Why? Because less sensitivity is there, less sensitization programs are there. As I told you, Transgender Welfare Board is there, and I want something coming up from the government in Jammu, maybe organizing something for these people so that they can actually come forward and speak about them and about their lives. Why we know less about them is because they have not been able to document themselves. So after 2019, the act has been passed, and after 3 years also we are talking about this, in the sense that on ground we see, specifically I am talking about Jammu because the one of the co-panelists who was talking about the case studies from Delhi and Kerala, a lot of things have been done in Delhi, and I am also in contact with some of the third gender and the transgender people from Chandigarh. So some development level has also taken place at the Punjab University Chandigarh level. But if you compare it with the Jammu, we have only been abhi to hum sirf wohi kar paye hain that we have like included the other categories in the admission form and like that. But still, fee wave off करना या उनके लिए facilities generate करना, we are still lacking in those things. Yeah, thank you. You are not audible.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, hello. So the next question is from Dr. Vijita, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, am I audible? Yes.
Yes, just a moment, ma'am. Yeah. Dr. Vijeta, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Ma'am, find that we have the Transgenders Act 2019 and the rules also of 2020. Yes. But then, yes, ma'am, as our Honorable Prime Minister always says that, it is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas or Sabka Vishwas, which is going to lead our country. Because together we will grow with an inclusive approach. So, ma'am, don't you think that the journey is long? Because the laws are there in place, enforcement has to be done. And it's a very long journey that we totally come to an inclusive society wherein everybody, all the transgender community, they feel respected. So don't you think this is a long journey and we've just started it?
Exactly. It's a very long journey. And, in our country, the main problem which I really face that we have plenty of laws, multiple of laws we have. The only problem is the implementation. So this is something where we are actually lacking. We don't have the enforcement agency in a proper way. We don't have the resource, right? We don't have we make the laws. We can make the laws, but still the society, we need that is very, the society should be like this. It should change its mindset. If the society is not going to change its mindset, then there is no need for the making the laws, because one society law is always made for the society. As we study in the jurisprudence also, if law is static, right? So there's no need to pass any such kind of law. The law should be like it should meet the need of the society. So in present scenario, it is the need of the society, so that we can make the laws for the transgender, we can make rules for the transgender. The only thing is that which we are lacking is the acceptance. If we will accept every person like a person, not as a transgender or a male or female, but still we are accepting, if we are able to accept any person as a person, that really matters. So if we want to we need the change the society, if we want to mingle all if we want to give all the rights to the transgender, the first thing we have to change the mindset of the society. In spite of making so many laws, in spite of making the Right to Education Act, in spite of making of the Transgender Act, but if it will not be implemented in a very fruitful manner, then there is no use of it, because still we are living the society, and it is the society only which is not going to accept them. If you talk about the urban area, if you talk about the rural area, there's a vast differences of opinion in them, right? If we today we are living in the metro cities and we are in Delhi and NCR here, so every one person is very it has very broad outlook and it doesn't have any time to think about other people's. If you are transgender, that's okay. If you are male, that's okay. Female, etc. If you talk about the rural area, they are not going to accept it because it's a very new thing for them. They're like, no, you are not accepted, you're not part of the society. So but still they're the part of the country. We can't left them, okay, if you're not going to accept them, don't accept it. We can't say that, because we, first of all, after making the laws, we have to give more focus on the enforcement. We organize so many seminars, we organize so many conferences, everything we are doing, right? But still the main lacking, which according to me, that is the implementation, that is the execution, that is the to change the mindset of the society. If the society is going to accept it, then that day would come, the transgender will get the all right. Still we are talking the education only. What about the adoption rights? What about the succession right? What about the inheritance right? Still they are lacking. Nobody is going to accept them. Nobody is going to give them that partition. Nobody is going to make them as a co-person of the joint Hindu family. Still they have to struggle a lot to get all the right which a male or female has in the society, because they neither falling in the category of male nor in the female. So they have to struggle a lot. Though we are living in the metro city, we easily accept them because we consider them as a human being. But in many part of the country, still they are not acceptable by the society, or not even by their parents as well. But it's luckily they are, it's a progressive society, I can say that. We have progressive society, and sabka saath sabka vikas, we can say that. Yeah, according to PM Modi, it is fruitful only when the society accept it, when the society going to say yes, you are the part of society and you have all the rights which a common person has in. So this is something which should be done if we want to give the proper place to the transgender person in the society for. That's
Yeah,
my
very
take.
well
Thank
answered,
you.
ma'am. Very well answered. Now, this question is for Kartika ma'am and Vijeta ma'am again. So, in 75 years of independence, as we celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, why across the nation we did not hear anything about the empowerment stories of the transgender persons? Why across the country we did not find the stories of their empowerment? Why there was nothing on screen regarding them? They have been an equal part in the country, and many of them have contributed towards nation building. Over to you, Kartika ma'am and Vijeta ma'am.
So
Ma'am,
should I?
yeah, ma'am, you may please speak.
Okay. If we
Kartika
talk
ma'am,
about
can
the,
you turn on your camera? We cannot see you.
Okay, just
Yes, ma'am, we can see you. Yes.
okay, ma'am. If you talk about the transgender empowerment, we're still talking about the women empowerment, ma'am. We are still focusing on the women empowerment. So it will took a more decade, more years to talk about the transgenders empowerment. So we are still in that era where I still staying stuck in one place. We're still working in the women empowerment. So it's a long way to go when you ask about the transgender empowerment. So being a part of the society, being the part of the nation, they should be empowered. They are the human being. They must have all the right. They must have all that. Still, if it's given in the international convention, who we are not going to stop them. But still we somewhere we are lacking. That is the law, that is legislation. We need that piece of legislation which can give them rights. Beside this piece of legislation, we can't give them rights at a national level. So we should promote more them to indulge in such type of activity. We must provide platform for the education, for other activities, so that they can easily participate in every stage of the society, every stage of the life, where they can easily get their rights. Why we are making the difference? You are the transgender, you will not get the right. No, he's a human being. Just consider them a human being. Then we'll talk about the empowerment. If we talk about men empowerment, women empowerment, we are talking about why we are talking about all these things. We should think a human being should be a human being, whether it's a man, woman, or transgender person. So it is all about empowerment, where we can give empowerment. We are not thinking about if the law will make, we will give the empowerment. No, it's up to us. It's up to us, our thinking, our family, our values, our everything, our upbringing, that we considered a person as a human being, not as a transgender person. So there are many things we're still lacking, because we are still waiting for the law. We are still waiting for the piece of paper where the law will be given to them, where the rights will be given to the transgender person. But if you will study all the laws, we have the education right, we have the they have a right to marry, but still we are still interpreting the word bride, which is given under the Hindu Marriage Act. We're still giving the word, interpreting the word. Okay, bride word also includes the transgender. So there must be a special law for them, so that they should be regulated by that specific law, irrespective of the marriage, succession, inheritance, adoption, guardianship, everything, every law which is related with the personal matters. So if we talk about the transgender empowerment, we have to educate them first. If they will know their rights, they can fight back. They can fight to the society, that's our right and you have to give it. So this is something which we have to inculcate in them, by the values, by the education, by making them aware that this is your right. We are not going to tell them, no, this is your duty. No, stop doing that. Just tell them this is your right and you should have it. So that's how we can make them more empowerment in the society. That's my take. Thank you so much.
Right, ma'am. Kartika, ma'am, we would like to know about your perspective.
Well, I feel like when we look at the history of transgenders in India particularly, so I think we can trace it to the ancient period. So we have our epics Ramayana and Mahabharata, which mention transgenders. So they have been given a boon by Lord Ram, that they will be sought on every ceremonious occasion, on every good occasion, because when he ordered people to leave and go back home and he was leaving for Ayodhya, he said all the men and women just leave, and they were transgenders and they stayed back, and they stayed back till Lord Ram came back, and they were actually given a boon. Then there is also this story of Shikhandi, and Shikhandi was the one who actually managed to kill Bhishma Pitama, who was a mighty warrior. So in ancient India, I think that transgenders had been accorded a higher respect than we accord them right now. And then when it comes to the Mughal period, I think they also played a prominent role during that time, since most of the advisors were transgenders. Now, the downfall started happening after the coming of the Britishers and the passing of the Tribes Act. I think it was transgenders were essentially criminalized, and then there was the introduction of Section 377 in the IPC, which led to further criminalization. And I think from there on, the things started deteriorating, and our country had to go through so much, and with we had to fight so much to achieve independence and then establish ourselves again as a rising power of the world, that somehow we forgot about our marginalized and vulnerable sections of the society. And I think I agree with ma'am, we're still talking about women empowerment. It will take some time to talk about transgenders empowerment. However, I do feel like that the government and the people have taken a very good first step in this direction, and I really hope to see some positive change in the near future. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kartika, ma'am. Very well taken. Well, that is what is the aim and the goal of an educated society, to make everything very inclusive. Well, at Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, we are here not simply to bandage the wounds of the victims beneath the wheels of injustice, but we are here to drive a spoke into the wheel itself. We would like to empower everybody so that India definitely can become a Vishwaguru. Well, we do not have more questions, so I'm now handing over the dais to my colleague, Dr. Nitin Sharma. I would like you to make some remarks.
Dr. Nitin, you are not audible.
I take a minute of you.
Nitin sir, you are not audible. Actually, there is some problem in the laptop of Nitin sir, so I have requested him to speak from my laptop.
Can I take
Dr. Nitin Sharma. Yes, concluding remarks, please.
Dr. Mahipal, you want to add something, sir? Okay.
Just take 1 minute, Dr. Nitin, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
The question remained unanswered. That we are discussing for the last 2 hours regarding the inclusive education. We are not going into the history, what happened with them. I told you that it is a centuries-old, effort which we are seeing is the light of the day. We've got a legislation for that. That is this right. But the question still remain unanswered. That what we should, as a teacher, as a legal aid society, as a university, or as an institute, you can say, or as a school, what we can do bridge this gap. Our focus should be more on like are the suggestions that we are giving to the. Basically, I told you that our Delhi University has been conducting seminars regularly, and we are people from the transgender communities and NGOs working on this field at the different times. We give the opportunity to interact. What I was telling you, the main reason that our students do not see we recognize as reason is first of all it is we are all human, but whenever we have an opportunity to understand them, only then we change the. I think for that I think see I am over saying that all these problems can be resolved by the at a later stage. As the Vietnam was saying, that it will take decades, but decades who will bridge this gap? This is the main. As an educationist, because we are on the education field, we are talking about the inclusive education. In the interim, we must all adopt accepting attitude towards that. We must accept them. We must recognize that a transgender person is not a stigma to our society, to our students. By organizing seminars, by Nukkad Natak, our students play this metro station at the university campus, different departments, universities and different courses, and they play the Nukkad Nataks and try to convey the message. It is a component in the range of human reality, and we should not treat them as inferior. We have to change our mindset as the shift. First of all, we have to change ourselves. It's a very open and progressive field, and we should not let them. We should not restrict their opportunities. This is the central idea of our university, and like these events often on. If we're talking about inclusive education, we should take the initiative. We should take the better in our hands to sensitize the students, to sensitize the city, to sensitize the departments of the university, to sensitize the colleges under the universities which are functioning. We should have a team for that who will perform these activities, and we should invite the transgenders, prominent transgenders throughout the India and the different NGOs working in this field, that what is the basic problem. Instead of going through all these, I think reading out the all other things, no use for us. I again must adopt a more accepting attitude, is that transgender is not an anomaly, right? And you think you need to change your mindset first of all. Only then anything. I will take just last few minutes of you, last few seconds in I take the transgender at one side, and I will take legislature taking the law, implementing law, and judiciary, or it is passing the judgment on the other side. I will take two groups. There is just one break to be gap. That so only it is we can bridge this gap. You can say gender balance judiciary, from the executive, from the legislature, then the transgender will be benefited if the society accepts it. We are just a brick to that. That's it. Thank you for providing me such questions.
Thank you so much, sir. You are very much right. And I must say, every age is a thinker, and we all people are thinkers. That's why we seek your collaboration in transforming and informing the thought process which is existing today towards the third gender. And most importantly, sir, we as an educationist are doing something better, or not saying better, rather something more than other components of the society. Reason being, like Delhi University has done such a big thing, like they have tried to enroll more students, and they have identified the column for the third gender. And even though, like in Amity University, we have dedicated a separate cell to the for the to cater the needs of the transgender community. We have Samadhan Kendras, and similarly, we have seen in the previous discussions, most of the esteemed guests have they have for we can say they have discussed the UGC guidelines related to it, as well as the mentioning about the transgender groups under the new education policy. But at the same time, as far as the legislature and other executive is concerned, you can see number of cases related to the violence by the police authorities on the transgender. It is most of the time we can see it in the newspapers. And even though if we'll go through the NALSA judgment that you have your good self has quoted, even though what NALSA judgment has intended to achieve for the upliftment of the transgender community, that has not still being largely translated into reality through this legislature, through this legislation. So the road is still very, I think, very far away. But I think miles to go before we sleep. And most importantly, that's why you are with us. And we have with us Dr. Hema Gandotra, Dr. Vijita Verma ji, and Dr. Kartika Bakshi. So that's why we have with us Dr. Hema Gandotra. She all the years from the past 1 decade, she's working with the transgender people. She knows n number of narratives and n number of stories by way of focus group discussion or by way of sociological inquiry. And people like you are going to guide us, and we as a collaboration can work only. And I think education has a prime role to play, and that's why we have chosen this topic, that is the inclusive education. And most importantly, we will be able to do something more in the coming days. And keep suggesting us, and we will be in tune with all the new ideas. And even though whatsoever we are discussing, that will be forwarded to the concerned ministry. And since Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment is the nodal ministry for this particular legislation, hopefully some of your thoughts and the thoughts of the other speakers may be listed as a part of the amendments in the future. And most importantly, sir, what I want to convey is in the meantime, as you suggested, that we need to talk with the transgender people. So in the coming webinars, we have with us in our panel some transgender activists. So we have with us, and even though we have shared our panelists, the list of the panelists with our HOI, and as well as with some of our next speakers who are going to speak in the next session. Hopefully, we will be able to share the details of the next programs with you. So that's why we have included them. That due to their unavailability, we will not be able to, we can say, give them available time for this till the fourth webinar. So we have with us 10 webinars. This is just the fourth one. And in the future, I think in the next 2 to 3 webinars, transgender activists will be a part of our discussion. So thank you so much. Once again, thanks all. And most importantly, thanks to our esteemed guests. And they have spoken from their heart, from different perspective, be it from educational point of view, policy perspective, and provided us good sociological insights. And we are extremely thankful to our co-moderator, Dr. Sumitra Singh and Dr. Khushbu Malik ma'am. And most importantly, we are extremely thankful to Professor Dr. Aditya Tomar sir for providing all the support and guidance, and NIST, National Institute of Social Defense Director Dr. R. Giriraj, Shweta Sagar Sehgal ma'am. And it is all due to the blessings and support of founder president sir and our chairman sir. It is all happening, and we will be able to disseminate the information regarding the important aspect of our life. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. See you soon, sir.
Thank you, Nitin sir. And that was a kind of a concluding remark and a vote of thanks together. However, before we would close this session, I would also request Aditya sir to inspire all of us with his beautiful words. Aditya sir.
Basically, I just want to convey my regards to all the esteemed speakers and who just spare their valuable times from their busy schedules, and all my dear colleague, Dr. Sumitra Singh, Nitin, Kartika, and Dr. Malek, who just smoothly organized the event. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Even your one-liners inspire us, and I mean it. I mean every word of it. Well, everybody, this was the fourth webinar in the series of the webinars on Transgender Persons Act 2019 and the Rules 2020. We are upcoming with 6 more webinars, primarily on Mondays and Thursdays. And before I conclude from this portal, there is something that is coming to my heart and mind together, and that is 2 words, justice and mercy. They are at the core of everything. And justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. And that is the truth. So we all need to be sensitized ourselves and then go ahead in the society and empower the transgender persons. I think that will be our contribution to the society. And of course, I'm inviting all of you to be a part of our transgender rights cell. And after we are done with 10 webinars, we are also going to submit a policy paper to the ministry. And I invite all your recommendations. I'm typing my email address here. If anybody would like to include their testimonials in the draft that we are going to submit, you please email me. I have given my email address here, sing11@amity.edu. So thank you everybody for being a part of the 4th webinar, and we look forward to your participation in the upcoming 6 webinars. Our founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan sir, inspires us and motivates us every day to do something for the local, global, and the global good. And Transgender webinar series is one among them. So in the words of our founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, goodbye and God bless everybody. See you all next time on the same portal for the next webinar. Bye-bye and take care, everybody.
Thank you
We will
so
close
much.
the session now. Arvind sir.
Thank you.